Big news dropped earlier today. One of the NFL's top cornerbacks is now up for trade. And yes, Las Vegas Raiders fans, this could be a golden chance. Jalen Ramsey, a name every football fan knows, is suddenly available. Reports say the Miami Dolphins and Ramsey are ready to part ways. NFL insider Ian Rappaport confirmed that both sides are now exploring trade options, and it's likely Ramsey won't be in Miami by 2025. Dolphins GM Chris Greer even told reporters that they've agreed it's best to move forward separately. Now, here's where the Raiders come in. Ramsey could be the perfect addition to this defense. Even though Miami only got him about 2 seasons ago, things didn't work out long-term. Their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, left after 1 season, and now the Dolphins are starting fresh, opening a door for other teams to grab a superstar. But before we dive deeper into what this means for Vegas, before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. Back to business. If the Raiders can land Jalen Ramsey, it would be a huge move, especially now that Pete Carroll is planning to shake things up with his defensive scheme. Players like Isaiah Pola-Mao, who was recently extended, are already showing promise. He's that kind of player who can line up anywhere. Linebacker, slot corner, even on the line of scrimmage. Imagine adding Ramsey to that mix. That's a defense that could really start making noise. Pete Carroll has a history of building strong, hard-hitting defenses, and it looks like the Raiders are following that same path. Back when Carroll was with Seattle, he worked with physical, versatile safeties like Cam Chancellor and Jamal Adams. Now, it's no surprise the Raiders are going after players who fit that same mold. The first move was extending Isaiah Pola-Mao, a safety who can do a little bit of everything. Then came the signing of Jeremy Chinn, another tough, all-over-the-field type of player. Add in cornerback Eric Stokes, who brings size and length to the secondary, and it's clear the Raiders are shifting toward a more physical, zone-based defense. That's exactly why Jalen Ramsey makes sense for Las Vegas. He's not just experienced, he's the perfect fit for this evolving scheme. In Pete Carroll's system, you don't need smaller, speedy corners who rely on quick reactions. Instead, you want big, physical players who know how to play smart in zone coverage. Ramsey checks every box. Even last season, Ramsey showed he's still got it. He allowed just 546 receiving yards, had 2 interceptions, and broke up 5 passes. Sure, he gave up a couple touchdowns, but he did all this while adjusting to changing defensive systems. Now imagine what he could do in a more stable, structured defense like the one Las Vegas is building. At 30 years old, he might not be in his prime anymore, but he's far from washed up. And here's the smart part. The Raiders might not need to give up a high draft pick. A 4th rounder, or even less, could be enough to get him. That's a bargain for a player with this kind of upside. Financially, the numbers work too. Ramsey's cap hit for 2025 would be $16.6 million. A big number, but one that makes sense if you're serious about building a defense that can dominate. Here's the smart part about going after Jalen Ramsey. If the Raiders trade for him, they don't carry the financial burden that Miami would. Since Las Vegas didn't sign his original deal, they avoid all the messy penalties. If the Dolphins release him after 2025, they'll take on a massive $18.4 million dead cap hit. But for the Raiders, none of that applies. For Vegas, it's a clean deal. 1 year at $16.6 million. And if the team likes what they see, there's room to offer him an extension. Let's say they add another year for $25 million. That would give the Raiders 2 seasons of Ramsey at an average of about $20 to $21 million per year. For a player of his experience and talent, that's actually a solid value. Now, here's something really interesting. NFL great Asante Samuel once said Ramsey might be even more effective now if he moved to safety. At this stage in his career, that shift could unlock a new level in his game. We've seen legends like Charles Woodson make that move later in their careers, and it worked. Woodson continued to produce big plays and rack up interceptions, even as his speed declined. Jalen Ramsey has that same potential. He's got elite football IQ, he reads quarterbacks well, and he knows how to trick them into throwing risky passes. That's exactly the kind of awareness you need from a top safety. Even though Ramsey may not be the fastest anymore, he can still play corner in a zone system. He could lock down the outside or step back into a deep safety role, something the Raiders could really use right now. The big question is whether the Raiders have enough cap space, and if the Dolphins are willing to deal him for a 4th or 5th round pick. But what makes this even more intriguing? There were reports in the past that Ramsey has shown interest in joining the Raiders. Years ago, when Jalen Ramsey's rookie contract with the Jaguars was nearing its end, the Raiders were one of the teams in the mix, and not just casually, Ramsey really wanted to be part of the silver and black. He even said it himself. He was practically begging to join the Raiders at that time. Although the deal didn't happen back then, the interest was very real from both sides. Fast forward to today, and the opportunity might come around again. This time, it feels different. The Raiders have a new vision with John Spytek and Pete Carroll, and this could be the perfect moment to make it happen. Las Vegas has been smart with their spending so far. They haven't splurged during free agency, which now gives them flexibility to chase major talent like Ramsey. These are the kinds of moves that can shift a team's future. The Raiders don't need to overpay. This isn't a situation like the Davante Adams trade where a massive price was involved. Ramsey could come at a reasonable cost, and his impact could be just as powerful. If Las Vegas does make the move, Ramsey won't just be another player in the locker room. He could be a difference maker on the field and in the culture of the defense. Let's clear something up. Maxx Crosby is not distracted. Some fans have wondered if his new role at Eastern Michigan could pull focus from his mission in Las Vegas. But let's be real. This guy lives and breathes football. Sure, he's helping build a future for his alma mater, turning it into a place where elite pass rushers are born. That's leadership. But make no mistake, Crosby's eyes are locked on one goal: winning a Super Bowl for the Raiders. He said it himself. There's plenty of time in the day to give back and keep dominating on the field. He's one of the hardest working players in the league. This new position won't slow him down. It might even sharpen his edge. Now, let's shift to something else catching the Raiders' attention: Travis Hunter. This young star recently made headlines by saying he won't settle for playing just one position in the NFL. He wants to be both a cornerback and a wide receiver, and so far, no NFL team has pushed back on that idea. Why does this matter to the Raiders? Because there's a real chance Hunter could still be on the board when Las Vegas makes its pick, and if that happens, it might be tough to pass up a talent like his. With the draft picture getting chaotic, especially with multiple quarterback-hungry teams looking to trade up, players like Hunter could slip. Rumors around the Saints possibly moving on from Derek Carr only fuel this fire. If the Saints jump up for a QB, that pushes more non-quarterbacks further down the board, and that's where the Raiders could get lucky. If Hunter's available, the team could grab a true game-changer, someone who brings high-level talent to both sides of the field. One thing is clear: the Raiders are doing their homework. John Spytek has already met with several top quarterbacks. The team is exploring every angle. Whether it's Hunter, a top corner, or a future QB, Las Vegas is keeping its options wide open. Here's where things get really interesting for the Las Vegas Raiders. If the Raiders are in the hunt for a quarterback, that sets off a chain reaction in the draft. Suddenly, quarterback-needy teams, like the Saints, might try to leapfrog Las Vegas in the draft order. And when that happens, other teams looking for star defenders or wide receivers may get pushed down. That's where the Raiders could catch a break. Imagine this: top quarterbacks fly off the board early. Cam Ward, gone at number 1. The Giants. They might even go for a quarterback like Jalen Milroe or Tyler Stowe, guys whose draft stock is heating up fast. And whether you agree with their value or not, we've seen surprising picks before. Remember Mitchell Trubisky? Anything can happen. So what if this wild shuffle leaves a gem like Travis Hunter sitting there for the Raiders? Now, picture this. Las Vegas brings in a veteran like Jalen Ramsey, watches young cornerback Jacorian Bennett take a leap in year 2, and then adds Travis Hunter to the mix. He plays cornerback full-time. but then slides onto the field for 12 offensive snaps a game, especially on third downs, where he becomes a game breaker. That kind of versatility would be pure chaos for opposing defenses. But let's be real. If the Raiders land Travis Hunter, they may want to flip the script. Use him primarily as a wide receiver. Corners are valuable, no doubt, but you can find starting caliber corners in the middle rounds. Wide receivers with Hunter's electricity? They're rare. He's not just good, he's a potential difference maker who forces defensive coordinators to lose sleep. Hunter's already made it clear he won't play for any team that limits him to just one role. That confidence. It's exactly the kind of fire the Raiders need. And if the board falls their way, Las Vegas might be the perfect place for Hunter to do both, and do it better than anyone else. Now, here's where things could get really exciting for the Raiders, and a little chaotic for everyone else. Travis Hunter made headlines when he said he won't join any NFL team that limits him to just one side of the ball. That bold statement could actually help the Raiders. Why? Because that kind of talk might scare off some teams, and if that happens, Hunter could slide right into Las Vegas's hands at pick 6. But here's the twist. The quarterback drama surrounding other teams might be the Raiders' secret weapon. The situation with Derek Carr and the Saints is spiraling. And now, with Carr's injury, the Saints might be desperate to trade up in the draft for a quarterback. That's where the Panthers come in. Their general manager recently said his phone didn't blow up with trade calls after Carr's injury news, but he made it clear they're open for business. "We'll be waiting if somebody wants to come up," he said. That's a green light for quarterback-hungry teams to start dialing. Now, let's break that down from a Raiders perspective. If teams start trading up to grab quarterbacks, that pushes elite non-QBs, like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, closer to the Raiders at pick 6. And that's the dream scenario. The Raiders could stay right where they are and still land a game-changing player without having to move an inch. And let's be honest, Las Vegas doesn't need to get caught up in the quarterback frenzy. What they need is another cornerstone on either side of the ball. Imagine this: Travis Hunter in silver and black, or a hard-hitting star like Abdul Carter joining Maxx Crosby on defense. There's also been buzz about names like Jalen Ramsey or Will Johnson. If one of those guys ends up on the roster next to a prospect like Hunter, the Raiders' secondary could suddenly look dangerous. This draft could be a turning point, and the best move the Raiders can make right now might be no move at all.